Okay, welcome along to another episode of Sweet Tea and Coffee. We have today some major news to announce to you. This just in.
We do.
We do have some major news.
Okay.
So we looked on, I don't know what we looked on.
Yeah,
we looked on the internet machine, and the internet machine told us that we have viewership outside of Texas.
Outside.
Well, let's start here. Outside of East Texas.
Right.
I said viewership, listenership, whatever you'd say.
Yeah, listeners. We have listeners.
We have friends of the pod.
Yeah.
Outside of East Texas. Outside of Texas.
Yeah. Outside of Texas.
Give us a couple of places in the United States where we have some listeners in New York.
New York. Enid, Oklahoma. Shout out to whoever's listening to Enid, Oklahoma.
Enid, Oklahoma, friend of the pod.
Yeah.
Whole community, friend of the pod.
Yeah.
And then outside, believe it or not, of the United States, we have listeners in
Hesse, Germany.
Germany.
At least one guy.
Yeah. Shout out to Germany.
Yeah.
Okay.
They probably listened to one episode and thought, this is not what I expected.
Yeah, it's probably some sort of spam. Like they just click on everything.
They were probably looking for a coffee podcast.
Yeah. Well, hello, Germany.
Yeah.
Hope we're not disappointing you. Anyway, this is exciting. So we've gone global, and glad you're a part of it. We have gone global. We have some really exciting news today. In our studio, we've got who I have dubbed the greatest preacher in America.
Yeah.
And he loves it when I do that and give him all that sort of attention. But we have with us Keith Ellison in the house today. He is a Fredonia Hill favorite, greatest preacher in America, my friend. I'm so excited to get to dive into his story a little bit today. And I think the guy with one of the coolest cars.
Yeah, he just rolled up in a real cool car.
And we're going to talk about all that.
Yeah.
So stick around. Sweet Tea and Coffee. Okay, as I said, we've got Keith in the house today, and I think where I left off in the intro is really where we need to begin, because Keith, he has a staple, an image that he carries around town. You always know where Keith is because he has really, really, really unique vehicle, and I think that's, he's got all sorts of really cool stories, and he started out in California, made it here to Nacogdoches, has been here for a while, and we're going to get into all that.
Right.
But the first thing, and I think the thing that everybody wants to know, is what's the story about the car? This thing is so cool. Give us the story on the car. Welcome, Keith.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Well, about the car, I was brought up in Los Angeles, and El Caminos were the premium car, especially when you fix them up.
Okay.
So I always wanted one. So I never thought I could get one, but always did. So
like as a kid, that was the car.
That was the car I wanted.
Yeah.
So finally got to Nacogdoches, maybe about 5 years ago. This guy coming to the post office, and he had a for sale sign on that car. And then we just started talking.
Yeah.
And then I said, man, how much you want for that car? And so he said, $8,000. And then I said, well, what about if I could give you cash? What about $5,000?
Okay, a little negotiating right there in the
post office.
I love it.
Yeah. So I'm taking care of business while I'm waiting on the customer.
That's right. That's right.
And so we came to a price. He sold me the car, and everything else is history after that.
You've only been driving that car for 5 years?
Yeah, approximately about 5 years.
Wow.
So yeah, give me the details on this car. So year model, all that.
Oh, okay.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah,
people want to know
that.
People want to know.
It's a 1986 El Camino.
Okay.
It was the last year they made them. It has. I redid the inside.
So you did it yourself?
No, okay, not me.
I was going to say that's pretty cool. That's something I didn't know about you. You had it done.
I had it done.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So I had the inside repostered. Did the wheels. Then I put the wheels on there. The paint job, which is I think which stands out.
Yeah.
The two-tone.
Yes.
Yeah. This guy named Wayne Bowen. He remodeled the car for me. His wife picked out the color.
Okay, so you said I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. She picked out the color, and she said that it has to match the dirt or wherever you are.
That's a good idea.
That's the way we chose a rug in our living room. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I never knew that.
Okay, so that's not the original color of the car. That was a different.
No,
Okay,
that-
because it looks like an '86 El Camino to me, just the color and everything.
Yeah. So she was saying. So when I talked to her, she was like, "Yeah, whenever you do something, it has to match the dirt of wherever you are."
That's brilliant.
And that's why we have the two-tone like that.
and it looks so good.
And it just stands out. Even when it's dirty, you can't tell it's dirty.
There you go. So was two-tone, and I'll just tell you right now, I don't know anything about El Caminos and their history. Were they originally painted in two-tone? Okay,
you do have two tones.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's way cool. So he just wanders up in the post office. You see him with like your car.
Okay, I seen him drive by the post office a couple of times, and every time he drove by, I was like, "Man, y'all see that car? Look at that car, y'all!" Man, and when he came in and he had the for sale sign on it,
That was it.
it was it.
Man, how did you contain yourself to be able to negotiate? I mean, the dream car is right there, and you've got to now it's on. You got to negotiate.
I didn't wait on anybody else. We had the line building up.
Close this window. I'm only talking to this one guy.
I was like, wait a minute. And so I'm trying to negotiate with him, and everybody's looking at me, but I'm focused. And I'm like, I got to get this done right here and right now. So the next day, I went to the bank.
That's
cashier
amazing.
check, and it was mine.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so any future plans for it, or is it like finished? Is it the way you want it to be?
No. Okay. For me, I want to do a convertible. See, I want to make it a hard top though, where I can put the top back on it and take it off when it gets hot.
Now, is that something that they originally had, or that would just be totally custom?
Yeah, that's custom. Everybody's telling me not to do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to mess it up. So I'm like, well, it's mine.
And you say, it's mine. That's right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking to do.
Oh, man. That's way cool. Well, we had to hear that story. Yeah. That's just, that is your staple. Your brand is the El Camino running around town.
Wherever I am. Like I had I was on the south side of town at a store. This lady came into the post office and said, "I saw you over at such and such yesterday."
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure that's something you got to be aware of when you have that unique of a vehicle. Is everybody in a small town?
Man,
everybody knows.
I can't hide
exactly where you are. You can't hide. Well, that's awesome. So you mentioned that you grew up in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So there's not many people that live here in Nacogdoches that grew up in Los Angeles. Right. That's quite the journey to go from there. I know you at some point. Obviously you were here, and I don't know if people know this about you, that you played football here for SFA. So take us on that journey. How does a kid growing up in LA get all the way to East Texas?
Man, what a journey. It's a God's journey.
Yeah.
Okay. My junior year of high school, I was All-American. Man, I had letters from every college that you can name.
Wow.
You know, just prospect letters.
What position did you play?
I played tight end and defensive end.
Okay.
So I was getting all these prospect letters coming in. So my senior year was supposed to be the blow-up year, my year. So right before my senior year, Los Angeles had a no pass, no play. Right. So me being the student that I was, algebra. Okay. I didn't go to class as much as I should have.
There it is. This is a theme. I think the last few people on our podcast have had the same story. Blake's got a similar story. That's so funny.
Okay, it's algebra though, man.
Okay,
And I thought I was doing good enough to pass, right? And so my coach was like, "Okay, Keith, how are your grades?" And I said, "Oh, I'm good." He talked to the teacher. He asked him, "How's his grades?" And he said, "Oh yeah, he's good." Man, when the report cards came out, he gave me he gave me an F. Oh, so I failed algebra. And then I was ineligible to play my senior year.
Oh, no. Which is crushing for prospects.
Yeah. So my thing was, what do I do?
Yeah.
Where do I go to play my senior year, right? Because I couldn't play in Los Angeles. So we end up shipping me to Texas. So I played at O.D. White my senior year. Didn't do well there. Nobody knew me, so there was no groundwork for me. Yeah. So they just kind of stuck me in the back.
So you moved from California to Texas
just to play football.
To play football.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, that's incredible.
Well, because I had family here already.
Okay.
So it wasn't that hard of a transition.
Okay.
But the senior year, man, you're so disconnected.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then me being prime for college football. Then getting here and everybody already have their position, and so you're just like another piece. Mm-hmm. So I end up going to a junior college in Ranger, Texas.
Yeah, that's Ranger's off I-20, right?
Yes, yes. West Texas. Yeah. Learned how to two-step there.
Watch out!
Come on, man. So
watch out! He can do it all. He can do it all.
I learned how to two-step at Ranger Junior College. So I played ball there. Stephen F. Austin came down, saw me, offered me a scholarship. So that's how I got to Stephen F. Austin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Texas thing just stuck. You moved here, played that senior year, and then rest is history. You've been here for the rest of your life. That's crazy.
Yeah, somewhat.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then even at Ranger, man, I ran track too. I ran the 400 meter one time.
What do you mean one time? What does that mean?
All right. I was trying to improve my speed.
Yeah.
And so I said I wanted to run track. So the track coach said, well, I don't know if you're going to take it serious, but we'll let you run unattached at our next meet. So you know what unattached means?
Does it just mean you're not affiliated with a team?
Exactly. You can come with us. And you can.
We're not claiming you. Though.
Yes.
Yeah. In case this goes bad, you're not with us.
So they told me I could run unattached. So I said, okay, cool. And so I was training for the 400, right? Boom, boom, blah, blah, blah. So at the meet, I get down in my stands. Everybody else is standing up, right? I get down on my hands and knees, and I'm priming for the race, right? The gun goes off. I take off. Pop. I'm in first place. For the first 100, I'm in first place. The first 200, I'm in first place. And I'm like, I'm going to win this thing, right?
Yeah.
At the 300
I'll
mark.
show them about unattached.
Man, hey, at the 300 mark, I started seeing people gaining on me. And then all of a sudden, at the 350, I'm like, I can't move.
Oh, no. It's all over.
They just start passing me, man. I almost just start crawling in, man.
Oh, no. So you ran out of gas.
I ran out of gas, man.
So the track coach comes back and goes, see, that's why
you're unattached.
Oh, man.
They had to pull me off the field.
Oh, my gosh.
So
that was the end of your track career?
That was it. I said, okay, I did it. Check it off my list. I'm good. Yeah.
So what position did you play when you came here at SFA? Same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So safety. Okay.
Yeah, when I was at Ranger, I played free safety. When I got here, they moved me to strong safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your experience like as a student athlete? I mean, it's a unique way to go through school. I mean, you have to be dialed in your studies and in your athletics. What was that like for you? You're shaking your head.
Okay. I don't know how it is now, but back when I played, one of the things you just had to have like a 1.5 in order to be eligible.
Okay.
So if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
So study halls and all that other stuff wasn't a priority for us.
Yeah.
So it was basically just show up.
Yeah.
If you show up sometimes and make sure you get that D average, you're good.
Okay.
So I know
so you met the standard.
Yeah, I met the standard. So education wasn't the primary goal. The goal was to make it to the NFL.
Okay.
So that's the goal.
And what happened? Did you play in the NFL?
No, I fell short.
Okay.
I'm still here with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a way different podcast right now.
What do you mean? Yeah. Fell short. You're with us. What are you trying to say about us? I don't know how to take that. Well, okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, I guess, and I don't want to assume here, but I guess then even as a kid, obviously, if you're involved in sports early on, you probably show quite a bit of promise as a kid.
Yes.
You're way above average in high school.
Yes.
You're getting offers in college.
Yes.
So you're the best of the best most of your life.
Yes.
Focused, have a dream, I assume, to play in the NFL.
Yes.
What's that like to start to realize that may not come to fruition? Is that kind of a thing that happens in a moment? And then how do you process that? Because that's a total change of focus for your life. Walk us through that.
When we were, I remember me and a teammate, we were sitting down, we were looking at each other, and we were saying to each other, if we can't play in an NFL, we don't know what we're going to do.
Wow.
And this is at a young age. We were like 16 at this time when we were talking like that because we were high pro athletes at that time. And so that's what our goal was. Our dream was to play in an NFL. That's all we saw. So coming into college, especially transferring into Stephen F. Austin, I came in the fall actually. So I didn't get a chance to have spring practice. Yeah. So that first year for me was a wash, pretty much. My final year, my senior year, I was All-American. So I was like third in the team in tackles, had like 4 interceptions. So I was really doing my thing my senior year. Right. My coach came over to me and he was like, man, if you would have did that your first year here, man, you know, so he was really impressed with that last year. I was real comfortable. I understood the plays. I understood what they wanted from me. I did try out with a couple of teams. I tried out with the Cowboys. I tried out with Washington. Washington was pretty high on me. They told me that they would draft me, but they didn't. So once I didn't get in, man, it was a letdown because now all of a sudden you have to readjust your thinking. Yeah. You have to try to figure out what are you going to do. School wasn't a priority for me. So after playing football, I just dropped out. So I went back home and had to kind of rethink and recalibrate my life.
Golly.
So I started working in a factory, Champion in Fort Worth, where they build clutches. Okay. I did that for maybe about 6 months, and I realized this is not where I want to be.
So you're thrust into all of a sudden this world where, now I got to provide for myself.
Yes.
While at the same time trying to figure out, what am I going to do? This is everything I've ever wanted to do is now off the table.
Yes. All my energy went there, man.
Yeah.
So after working at Champions for 6 months or so, I looked up and I said, man, you know what? I need to get back to school. So after wasting my time here for the last 2 years, I had to come back and start all over.
Wow.
So that's
so
what
you
I
came
did.
back to SFA?
I came back to Stephen F. Austin. That's how I came back.
Okay.
So once I got back, I kind of, matured. I think a lot of kids, when they first get to college, they're not really mature and they don't know how to study or they don't know why it's important.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So I matured because I realized that this is not what I want to do. So if I go back to school, I'll have a better opportunity for myself. Yeah. So I matured in that way, and I focused on school, and I started hitting the books. And so I graduated from Stephen F. Austin in '94.
Okay.
Then after graduation, I still didn't have an idea of really what I was going to do. I met a man named Basilio Fiera, and he was the BSM director.
Okay.
And he started to disciple me. And that's how...
This was after you finished playing football?
Yes, this is after I finished playing football. Okay. So he started discipling me and started talking to me about Christ. First of all, I was in the UC just sitting down. We call it the UC.
Yeah, that's what it was called when I was in school. Yeah.
I don't know what they call it
I think
now.
they call it Student Center now, but it's still the UC.
Okay.
That's right. It's the UC.
So I was sitting there just relaxing in between classes. I was going to class this time.
There you go.
Yeah. So I was just sitting there, and he walked up to me, and he asked me a question. He says, can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah, sure. He says, if you die tonight.
Whoa.
Yeah. Do you know that you will go to heaven? And I said, I think so. And he said, well, if you want to know for sure, I want to invite you to lunch.
Wow.
Right.
That's the first time you've met him?
No, it's the first time I met him.
Wow.
And he just walks up to me. He gives me an invitation because Wednesday afternoon they were doing lunch at the BSM.
Yeah.
Is it still called? Yeah. We called it the BSU at the time.
Right.
Yeah. BSM now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And they still do noon lunch.
That's
Wednesdays.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So I went to the noon lunch. Got with him. Free meal. Okay.
Yeah.
He's speaking of college kids' love language right there.
Man. I was like, free meal too?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm there.
Sign me up.
So got there, got with him. He started talking to me some more. And then from that moment on, he took me under his wing. He would take me to mission trips. My first mission trip was to Mexico.
Wow.
And so we went like maybe 3 to 4 times. He started ministering with me, talking to me, letting me ask him questions. Is God and Jesus the same? Those type of questions. Yeah. Do I pray to God or do I pray to Jesus? And so he was allowing me to ask him just questions that were on my mind. Yeah. So he discipled me and walked me through the gospel. Yeah. And that's how I started my ministry, actually.
Wow. Okay, so at that point in your life, was faith even part of your life, or was it? you just had a lot of questions, or I mean, where were you in that? Moment?
Okay. Growing up, my mom always took us to church. You know, I think Lecrae has a line in one of his. Oh yeah. He was a drug baby.
Yeah.
That was me.
That's right. That's right.
So my mom would always make sure that we were in church.
Yeah.
You know, so we were always in church, but never really understood church. You know, we had a concept of church and we knew church. So growing up, church was something that we did.
Okay.
So at one point in my life where I think when I was like 14 or 15, my mom started letting me choose if I was going to go or not. And so I decided not to go because football was on. Yeah. So Sunday was football.
Sunday. Yeah.
So, you know, so she allowed us to choose at that age. And so, I just kind of really just weaned away from it. Coming into college, church wasn't an issue for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this really was a time where it was familiar from your childhood.
Yes. Definitely familiar.
But in terms of something that you were seriously pursuing,
never was pursuing that.
But then this relationship sparked a real hunger in you. You obviously had questions. You were thinking about things.
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Yeah. Okay, you said it really even sparked ministry, and I see, obviously the people around here have heard you preach, and know that it's something that God has called you to. Right. Walk us through that. Like, what does it look like from that point when you start really diving into your faith, as it evolves into recognizing that, man, God's even calling you to be in ministry vocationally, to pastor. I mean, how does that go?
Well, once Basilio continued to disciple me, I mean, this is over years, you know, as long as he was here, as long as I was here. So we had that relationship going. Yeah. All of a sudden, Basilio decided that he was going to go on mission, and he was going to leave the BSM to be a missionary. Wow. That broke my heart.
Oh, man.
That made me bitter. Well, I say bitter, but it just really hurt me that he would leave me. Yeah. You know, because of the relationship that we had. Yeah. And so I stopped going to church.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, I was hurt. Yeah. You know, that he would leave like that. So I decided that, I must pull back and go back to the friends that I had, which were my college buddies. Yeah. So I tried that for a little while, but it just didn't stick for me. Wow. It just didn't feel a part of me. Yeah. You know, it didn't fit my lifestyle. Yeah. So after me pouting, that's what I was doing. I was pouting. And I was mad at God for allowing him to leave me. And then I kind of, recovered. Yeah. And I got back into ministry again. And then I started reaching out to the football players. So I felt like these guys need to hear the gospel. Yeah. So I started a football ministry. So I started with football players. Yeah. Then all of a sudden the basketball players start coming. The volleyball girls start coming. The track girls start coming. The track guys start coming. Wow. The baseball players start coming. And so that was my first opportunity to minister.
Wow. So you that all sparked from you saying, you know what, this is where I was in my life.
Yes.
My eyes have been opened to the truth of the gospel, and I'm going to go back into that place and sow the truth. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. I felt a burden for these guys because I was like, man, okay, they want them to play football, right? And this is a physical thing, but nobody is caring about their spiritual life. Wow. And so I felt like that was my burden. So I got with this guy named Kyle Klimke. He was the director of the BSM or BSU at the time. And I just asked him, okay, can you come with me to make sure I'm saying everything right?
Wow.
Just to make sure I'm doing this right? So he would come in, he would sit there, and he would listen as I would go through the Bible and talk to these guys, just to make sure that my doctrine was on point or I was interpreting the scripture correctly. Yeah. Yeah, so that's how that got started.
Okay, so I'm just curious. So what I think a lot of people struggle with feeling that burden. I mean, you describe feeling a burden for these guys. Yeah. Knowing clearly the world that they've lived in, what their day in and day out life is like, and having a burden for them. I think a lot of people could probably express having a burden for someone or a group of people, whatever. Sure. The hard part is then, what do I do with that? How do I even step out? I love to hear you say, I stepped out and I asked for somebody to go with me, but I wasn't even sure I was saying everything correct. I was just going to go. Like what would you say to somebody that says, man, I feel a burden, but I don't know how to do it. How would you encourage somebody?
I would just say, trust God. Because if he's giving you a burden, he's going to provide everything that you need.
Wow.
For me, it was, Kyle was more of a safety net for me.
Yeah.
So to make me feel as if I'm doing something wrong, he can correct that.
Yeah.
But he provided this man and the willingness for him to go with me.
Yeah.
So just trust God.
You just got to jump out there and do it.
Just trust
At the end of the day, there's really nothing else to say except you just got to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Because when I went back to him, I went to the athletic director at the time, and I was letting them know, hey, I think that these guys need to hear the gospel. You know. And the whole team don't have to come. Whoever just wants to come can come, right? And that's how it started. So he said, well, we can't make them come.
Right.
So whoever wants to come can come. So first of all, we started off with just a few guys, right? And then over time, man, that thing just blossomed.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how they have FCA right now.
Wow. That's where it came
from.
FCA?
Yes.
Wow. Which is so cool because I know you get to even, as part of FCA and the crew that works there, they do chapels and stuff for the different teams, and I know you've been able to even go back and be
that's cool.
Be part of it. What's that like? Even when you get to go back now, these years later, and
nervous, man, nervous.
But you're sewing into something. You're speaking at something.
I'm nervous all the time.
You started. That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's like, man, God had His hand on it because right after a couple of years, I think I did it for like maybe 3 years.
Yeah,
and I ran across some really great guys like Jeremiah Trotter. He came through in my
played for the Eagles.
And Terrence Shaw. He played for San Diego. He came through the Bible study, and I was able to sow into these guys' lives, man.
Wow!
And so it's just what God had for me at that time.
Yeah.
So I did it for like 3 years, and then I had a burden that God wanted me to do more.
Wow!
Kyle was confirming that too. He was like, Keith, God is looking for you to do more, right? So I decided to go to seminary, and that's how I went back to Fort Worth, and I went to seminary at Southwestern.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just make sure folks catch that.
Yeah.
By stepping out and saying yes to the Lord, to be obedient, to go back and to sow into the lives of these young men.
Yeah.
What ends up happening in return is that God shows you even the call He's put on your life.
Yeah. And I didn't know that at the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm thinking, okay, I need to grow more.
Right.
And that's and so I need to be challenged more. And so that's how seminary came into the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like from the very beginning, those conversations at the BSM, the hunger never really went away.
Right. Yes.
You were going after answers and depth all the time.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So now the other, you do it all. Okay. So you do it all. And one of the things that you do is your full-time gig is at the post office. So you are a central figure in the Nacogdoches community because of the vibe you give off at the post office. Really? Well, and you were just telling us, and I'm going to write a letter to complain. So if any post office officials are listening, get Keith out of the back and put him back in the front.
Oh man!
But okay. So one just kind of goofy question I had.
Okay.
I feel like there are certain occupations that you probably get the same exact questions over and over and over again. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
But when people find out you work at the post office, is there any, like, what's the most common question you get when people find out that you work at the post office? I don't know. Maybe there's not one, but I felt like there might be.
No, not really. I think.
Come on, give me something.
I don't know.
Don't make me
look
look bad on this show here.
No, I really don't know. I don't know really.
You've had some really interesting stories.
Yeah.
Surely you could share with us. We had a police officer on not too long ago, and he had all sorts of interesting stories. I feel like working at the post office, you come across all sorts of folks.
Servant.
Public servant. You got to have some story. Is there a good post office story you can share with us?
No, not on air. There are some, but I don't know how this will go over though, man.
Come on, we would love.
You can edit this now.
No, I don't know.
No. Okay. This is not bad. I don't think. Okay. This is during Breast Cancer Awareness Week, right?
Okay.
And I'm trying to practice on my Spanish, right?
Uh-oh.
Yes. So this lady was coming, and she had this shirt, and it had. I can't say this on air, man.
You're gonna back out the story right now?
Okay, so this is what you do: is that the next time you see Keith,
you ask him about this story.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
So now you're gonna have a bunch of inquiries on this story.
This may have backfired.
No, okay. I don't think it's bad. It could be, but I'm not really sure. So you guys write Kendall if it goes south. Okay, that's right. Okay,
my email is Blake Russell
Right,
at
yeah,
Fredette.
yeah.
So on her shirt, see, I'm trying to practice Spanish, and so I'm just unaware, and she has protect the tatas.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking that's Spanish, and I was like, "Hello, tatas."
Oh no! And you're trying to practice your Spanish. Oh my god!
I never heard that before.
Did she just freeze? Like what is her?
Hey, my coworker just started busting up.
Oh my gosh!
And because I've never heard that term.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's Spanish.
And you're trying to work on your Spanish.
And I'm like, just blasting it out. Protect the tatas. Protect the tatas. Oh man! Everybody just started rolling.
So it's a wonder
man.
you still work there.
Yeah. So I was like, man, talk about somebody turning red.
Oh, that's a good one.
Man,
That is funny.
So, yeah.
That's funny. Well, so talk to us about. So you are back here in Nacogdoches.
Yes.
You go to seminary, and this is another thing I think that we don't talk often enough about. I think a lot of times we have this idea of ministry and that God's called me to something, and if God's called me to something, that means I need to have a job in a church, or I need to be, I need to be a missionary and go off and stuff. Right. But the reality is that's not true. And so you are living in the world of walking in your calling, who God's called you to be, and doing that in the context of the local church. Also working in a quote unquote secular job, working in the workaday world. Right. What's that like? How do you balance those two things? What's your viewpoint on that?
Well, and it's sometimes it can be tough to balance.
Sure.
My first thing is that in the morning I try to have a quiet time.
Yeah.
Because I try to get my mind in a state of praise and worship. So I want to be prepared before I even enter the building. So that's my routine in the morning. I get up, get my coffee, start reading. So mentally,
wait, get your what? Your cup of what?
Sweet tea, I think is what he said.
Oh, my bad. Yeah,
no, coffee. I think coffee.
Yeah, my coffee.
Okay, so you get in the morning. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm studying and I'm getting into the Word. So that way I'm prepared mentally. So when I engage with people, I want to be able to present Christ as much as possible. Yeah. But sometimes it's difficult. You know, people can be difficult. They can rub you the wrong way. And so sometimes I do well, sometimes I don't.
Yeah. It's interesting. We had Teresa Allen in here the other day, and we were talking to her. She's a teacher, and we were talking about her about the exact same thing. Yeah. And it's funny because she mentioned the morning routine. Yeah. And she talked about, before I go into that classroom, I need to, because we said, what would you tell young teachers? And she said, I would tell them to praise the Lord in the morning. Yeah. As part of your routine. Why do you think the morning is significant? Two people have said that. Why do you think that's an important piece?
Well, I think it just sets your day. Yeah. It gets you in the mind frame of where you need to be, as a Christian. Yeah. And the Word tells us to meditate on the Word day and night. Yeah. And so the first thing you ought to do is say, God, here I am for you. Shape me, mold me, just direct my path. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's so important. There's something significant about beginnings and endings. I think it was, Bonhoeffer writes about that in Life Together. He talks about a Christian community beginning and ending days together, and why beginnings are so important to focus on the Lord in prayer and praise. So, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. Well, okay, so give us an idea of what your world looks like now. You are you're working in the post office. Right. You've got a personal training. Should I not say, no? Don't call him. He's not. He's.
Don't do that.
Okay. What are you involved in now? What does ministry look like for you now? Give us a window into your world as it stands today.
Okay. Basically, in the mornings, of course, just getting into the Word, going to work, training, working out. Yeah. And then that's about it, really. Yeah. That's all I have time for, actually. Yeah. As far as ministry goes, I I think, I probably went into a dry spell for a little bit. I think it happened right at COVID.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty common. Tell us about that. I think a lot of people would say, yeah, that's me.
I think while I was here before, I was teaching.
Yeah.
And that really kept me grounded in a way that, for me, I like to study and get into the scriptures.
Yeah.
And I like to dig. And that just really is my highlight.
Yeah.
So when I stopped doing that, I stopped digging into the scripture and searching it out. And I just started being surface, And surface is okay for a little while, but you can't survive on surface.
Wow. Yeah.
And so for a while, I just been surface, So if there was a minute where it was just really hard to retain the word, you could be reading the word of God and just go in one ear and out the other. It doesn't impact you at all, but you're still doing it, hoping that God will just open your heart to it. And so I think that there was a dry spell for me for a little while. And you probably was like, man, where is Keith? What is he up to? I'm calling him, asking him if he'll do this, and he keeps saying no. I think I was just going through a dry spell. And then recently you called me, you said, hey, Keith, I got something for you. Are you okay with that? Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And so I just prayed to God, open my heart, right?
Yeah.
So recently, as I was reading, I think I was reading something from Charles Stanley.
Yeah.
He has a little devotional that I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
And he talked about how the word is meant to guide us. It's meant to transform us. It's meant to instruct us, right? And we just have to be receptive to it. And so I was like, God, just let me be receptive, right? So your challenge for me to get up and preach again really inspired me in a way. So like the last couple of days I've been home preaching.
There you go.
Preaching to my dog.
There you go.
She's tired of my service right now. She's like, not again. So anyway, it's like, I know, man. Sometimes we just go through that rough patch.
Yeah.
And the word is like, it's just bouncing off of us. It's not really making an impact. And so I was grateful to be able to say, okay, I have a reason now to get back in there and dig in the scripture, to research, to figure out what this means, what is this saying, insight. Yeah. Because I think as pastors, you have a certain gift of insight where scripture can just say one thing, but then as you just study it and look at it, all of a sudden it opens up. And you're able to interpret it in a different fashion. You're able to see things that normal people won't see, and you're able to bring it all together, And so I think that is happening to me again.
What's that like? Is that refreshing?
It is.
Scary? Man. I mean,
It's refreshing in a way because you knew you could do it, but you just haven't done it in so long.
Yeah.
And now that you're back there, it's like God is saying, okay, I'm going to give you this again.
Wow.
So I'm gonna open this back up for you and let you see what I'm saying. It's just different.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's cool. I wonder if in those times, I don't know, but when we go through those dry spells, whether consistency there, even though we don't necessarily feel like anything is happening. Yeah. Where we feel more surface. I mean, I've certainly had those seasons where it can be a long stretch of time where I do feel like it's just bouncing off of me. You said going in one ear and out the other, and I certainly have one of those. But I wonder if, though, and I'm going to say I think that the truth is that it is, but I feel like even though we're not aware of it, that when we stay engaged, that there's still something transforming in me.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that? I even though we don't necessarily know what's going on. What do you think?
I think two things actually on that. One, it's good to stay in there. Stay put, stay in that routine in the sense of getting into that word, even though it feels surface, right? But the other thing is the obedience part. The transformation doesn't happen unless there is obedience.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I think that's where the dry spell came. It was a lot of reading, but no action.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. And
transformation only happens when you take that word and the Holy Spirit reveals that word, and then you say yes and you do that word.
Yeah.
James says, don't be just hearers, but be doers.
Yeah.
So that's the transformation. And I think a lot of us are just reading without the doing part.
Yeah. And it's in the doing that you actually discover that it hasn't been going in one ear and out the other, that there's actually been something going on, but you won't find that out unless there's obedience.
Yes, correct.
Man, that's really well said. That's so good. Well, I'm excited to Keith alluded to it, and this will come out, I think, the week of.
Right before.
Yeah, so the Tuesday where this comes out, if you're listening to this on a Tuesday through Saturday, then you have fair warning. You better be here on Sunday morning. It's going to be exciting. Keith's going to be preaching for us on that Sunday.
That's it.
And excited to hear what the Lord has been doing. Man, I really appreciate you coming by. I think folks have learned a lot about you. Right? And so I appreciate you coming by. This feels like I know I say this a bunch, but this feels like this is part one of maybe part 2, 3. I feel like there's so much more to get into, but we're out of time for today. But seriously, thanks for coming by. And friends, we've got other folks that we're going to be interviewing coming up. We've got a really good schedule, but again, want to hear from you. If there's anybody that you feel like, hey, you need to talk to this person, this would be a great interview, please let us know on any of our channels. You can certainly reach us, but we like to always say our email, which is
stc@fredoniahill.org.
Yeah, that's
Send those emails, those friends of the pod shout outs and all
that's right. And again, don't forget, man, how easy it is to just sit down with somebody and have a conversation. What God might do to encourage you, inspire you, to connect you with somebody else by just grabbing a cup of coffee or sweet tea and having a conversation. You might be blown away by the friends that you make. So Keith, thanks again for being here, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.